Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this first presentation of GenWell. My name is Jean van Biljon, and it's a pleasure to welcome you here today. As you've seen on the communication, we are talking about saving for your child's education. And I thought it good to call it class of 20XX, because you know when your child will be in what class in what year. So class of 20XX, how do we save for that? And how do we prepare for our child's further academic education? Well, if you go on, it will start with a savings plan. A secure future starts with a savings plan. And if we talk about savings plan, we'll get to that later on as well. But a savings plan will assist you in planning very securely for future expenses, like education or anything else. This can be applied to different kind of savings ventures we want to undertake. But make sure you start to save. Saving means you put it in some kind of investment, which will generate an income for you or will have growth. That growth will most probably or must outperform inflation, that you can be in a better position than you were previously. Just leaving money in the bank will not get you very far, because banks' growth in usual bank accounts is not more than inflation. It's usually a bit less. Money market gives us a bit less than inflation. So make sure you have a savings plan which will give you more growth. And we will talk about a bit that also then today. Two facts. More than 51% of the youth aged 18 to 24 claimed that they did not have the financial means to pay for their tuition. 51%. That is the sad reality of the academic environment in South Africa. Secondly, 18% of those aged 18 to 24 who were not attending educational institutions indicated that their poor academic performance prevented them from participating. So when we are saving for our children's education, it doesn't necessarily mean it is only for tertiary education. This can be from pre-primary, primary, secondary, and tertiary, because all those parts form your child's academic route you will take in life. So make sure it starts from very early until tertiary education. So make sure they can do that as well, and can get to schools will help them the good academic performance as well. The assistance, the support they need to do that. Just by means of indication, this is the tertiary fees for 2023. Some did a bit of research, and you will see there are the different universities. Not all are listed in South Africa, and the different courses, different degrees that you can complete, and what the pricing and the fees thereof is. It will start with the lowest for that university until the highest for that specific degree. So make sure you see what's happening there. The first two columns at the top you'll see is economic and management sciences, then engineering, built environment and IT, health sciences, humanities, law, natural agricultural sciences, and education. And then you also see the residence fees. The residence fees is most likely maybe more, maybe less than what the highest degree is costing. So make sure you see and prepare for that as well. If you are not staying in one of the larger areas, make sure you can pay for the residence fees as well. Together with that, we also look at that later on. There's other fees also which you must keep in mind. It's not only to pay for the degree, but what about all the other costs, the daily living costs as well, books and that, etc. So what are the mistakes you must avoid when saving for your child's education? First mistake is underestimating how much money you will need. Make sure you understand what is needed at what stage to provide enough for your child's education and for the academic needs. We can do the calculations for you. That can happen. As you can see, there's some few in the waiting room. We can admit those in the waiting room. For those who have just joined us, welcome. We're talking about the mistakes to avoid when saving for your child's education. So first off, do not underestimate how much money you will need. Because when saving, you must know how much you need to save. I will get to a case study just at the end of this discussion about the mistakes. But make sure you know how much you need. We can do the calculations for you. Then you can also see what must I save to reach that goal at what stage. You don't always have to save or have the money ready when they start their studies. You still study 3 to 4 years, example for tertiary. And when you do that, you must only have the money available in the last 2 years, all the money. So the rest you save, you can start paying towards the fees, but you only need to complete everything in the last 2 years to have enough saved. The second mistake you must avoid is leaving it too late. If you know how much you must save towards your child's education, do not put it off until later. We always say to ourselves, I can't afford it now, I'll do it later. The later you do it, the more expensive it's going to be to start saving to save that amount you need to save. Start saving as early as possible. Education is not cheap. So make sure you know what you need to save, when to start saving for it, and how much you need to save in order to reach that goal for your child's education. The third mistake you must avoid is failing to increase your premium every year. When you get the calculations, you will see what amount you must start with and to start saving in the first year towards that education. But next year, you must increase the premium. Most probably, your quotation you received and the advice you received will indicate that there must be growth every year on that premium you must save. Make sure your quotation also shows that is a built-in growth and increase on the premium, that you can save enough and not fall behind because you did not increase the premium. So make sure you budget for that as well. It is important that that premium still increase every year. That is built into the product, but make sure keep in mind that education inflation is much more than consumer inflation. Consumer inflation is 6 to 7% currently. It is a bit higher now after COVID. But education inflation, we calculate around 9% per year. So if those tertiary fees I showed earlier will grow every year by more or less 9%. Not by inflation. The residency and all those other expenses will most probably only grow by inflation, usual consumer inflation, but not your tertiary fees, which will grow by 9%. The fourth mistake to avoid is avoiding higher risk products. When saving, when you have, let's say, more than 5 years to save, you can take a bit of more risk when you invest. When you are invested in let's say, a moderate or moderate aggressive risk profile investment, then you will need at least 5 years to reach the goal the investment has. They want to outperform inflation by a certain percentage. It depends on which one you choose. But you will need to have some higher risk funds as well to make sure you save enough. That means you will need to have some equity exposure. You cannot only stay invested in the safe asset classes like cash and bonds. You will need to have some equity exposure and some others as well, just to make sure you get enough growth, you reach the goal of the investment. And then lastly, paying high fees, the last mistake people make. Whenever you start saving, make sure you know what the fees are. And if you can, negotiate about the fees. If you pay if the fees are too high, you will never reach your goal you want to. So make sure you understand what are the costs involved in saving on that specific product as well. Are there any recurring fees? It's only a once-off fee. What's happening? How does it work? Make sure you know that. Make sure the quotation indicates that as well, and make the decision then on what can you afford, what kind of fees, because remember, you are going to pay fees. Fees is part of the investments, but what fees are you going to pay? What can you afford to pay? And how much of the growth can still happen while paying the fees? Here is a real-life example, the case study. Refiloe's son is 4 years old and already a skilled negotiator. She has started saving towards a future Eagles tertiary education with 15,000 Rand in an investment and 1,000 Rand added each month. A great start, but it's enough. Receiving the calculations, she finds out that studying law at a South African university will cost around 52,000 Rand per year for tuition only. That is over 200,000 Rand for a 4-year degree. To meet this goal, Refiloe needs to save an extra 258 Rand per month. That's 25% extra, 1,258 in total, increasing annually with inflation until her son finishes his studies. If she had not started saving yet, she would need to save 1,342 Rand per month. So make sure you know that is 34% extra than what she initially started with. So make sure you can remember what to do that. Yeah, it's me. So education is the kindling of a flame, not the filling of a vessel. One of the great quotes by Socrates. Education is the kindling of a flame, not the filling of a vessel. Are there any questions? I'm going to stop the screen share, and if there's any questions, you're welcome to ask. If there's no, you can unmute yourself. Otherwise, if there's no questions, thank you very much for joining us. Join us again next month for our next delivery of our GenWell presentations. We are going to, the first few months, we're going to look at saving towards certain goals. How do we do that? We started off with this one about your child's education. So thank you very much. I'm signing off. Have a good day and a good week. The weekend is almost here. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.